When the sky begins to whisper in a language we do not fully understand, wise people do not wait for the shout. Today the signs are no longer whispers. The patterns, the numbers, the silent calculations of unseen systems are rising together like a chorus. And that chorus is not gentle. It is urgent. A great winter storm approaches not as an ordinary guest of the season, but as a force shaped by extremes. The air has shifted its balance, the cold has sharpened its edge. The winds gather not in confusion but in purpose. What we are witnessing is not just weather, it is a reminder. There is a tendency in human nature to delay response. We hear warnings, but we wrap them in doubt. We see signals, but we cover them with routine. Yet, when many voices align, when every measure points in the same direction, ignoring them is no longer caution, it becomes risk. This moment asks for awareness, not fear. Fear clouds judgment, but awareness sharpens it. Preparation is not panic, it is respect. Respect for nature's strength and respect for our own responsibility. To prepare is to accept reality without resistance. Consider how the smallest action taken early becomes the greatest protection later. A secured home, a stocked necessity, a mindful plan, these are simple acts, yet they carry the weight of wisdom. Just as a tree bends before the storm to avoid breaking, so too must we adjust before the force arrives. There is also a deeper lesson hidden within such events. Storms reveal what is fragile and what is strong. They test not only structures of wood and stone, but also the structure of our thinking. Do we react, or do we respond? Do we ignore, or do we understand? In times like these, calm becomes a form of strength. Not the calm of denial, but the calm of clarity. To stand steady, to act wisely, and to move with intention. This is how one meets the storm before it arrives. And remember, no storm exists in isolation. Each one is part of a greater rhythm. The earth shifts, the air flows, the seasons turn. When these rhythms become intense, they are not asking for fear. They are demanding attention. So listen carefully, not with panic, but with presence. The signals are clear. The time to prepare is not tomorrow, it is now. Because when the storm finally arrives, it will not ask whether we believed it. It will only reveal whether we were ready. Warnings must be taken seriously when multiple signals and systems point to danger. Ignoring them increases risk. When many voices rise together to deliver the same message, wisdom lies not in questioning their unity, but in understanding its meaning. In the world we live in, there are systems that observe what human eyes cannot fully see. Patterns forming in the sky, temperatures shifting across distant lands, winds gathering strength beyond the horizon. These signals do not emerge randomly, they align with purpose. And when they begin to agree with one another, when every measure points toward the same conclusion, it is no longer a suggestion, it is a warning. Yet human nature often resists such clarity. There is a quiet habit within us to delay belief, to soften urgency, to convince ourselves that perhaps things will not be as severe as they appear. We hear the alerts, but we place them at the edge of our attention. We see the signs, but we continue with routine, hoping that normalcy will somehow hold its ground. This hesitation is not always born from ignorance. Sometimes it comes from comfort, from a desire to avoid disruption. But comfort, when it blinds awareness, becomes a fragile shield. To ignore clear warnings is to place faith in chance rather than in understanding. It is like standing at the edge of a rising tide and telling oneself that the water will stop, even as it steadily climbs higher. The truth is that nature does not pause for our doubts. It does not wait for our acceptance. It simply unfolds according to its own balance, its own force, its own time. There is strength in recognizing this reality early. When we accept a warning as it is, without minimizing it or delaying action, we give ourselves the greatest advantage: time. Time to prepare, time to adjust, time to protect what matters most. The earlier we respond, the more choices we have, and with more choices comes greater control over the outcome. Ignoring warnings, on the other hand, narrows those choices. It turns preparation into reaction, and reaction often arrives too late to be fully effective. What could have been managed calmly becomes urgent. What could have been secured becomes vulnerable. In this way, the cost of ignoring is rarely immediate, but it is always eventual. There is also a deeper wisdom in learning to trust patterns beyond our personal experience. Not every danger announces itself with visible force. Some reveal themselves through quiet alignment, through consistent signals that build over time. To respect these signals is not to live in fear, but to live in awareness. It is to understand that knowledge, when offered clearly, carries responsibility. In moments like these, the question is not whether the warning is comfortable or convenient. The question is whether it is true. And when truth stands clearly before us, repeated and reinforced from every direction, the wisest path is not to debate it endlessly, but to act upon it with clarity and purpose. Awareness over fear, staying calm and aware, helps make better decisions instead of reacting with panic. Fear often arrives quickly, like a sudden gust of wind that shakes the door and startles the heart. It is a natural response, a signal that something is not right. But while fear may awaken us, it is not meant to guide us. When fear takes control, it clouds the mind, narrows perception, and turns thoughtful action into hurried reaction. In moments of approaching danger, such as a powerful winter storm, the difference between fear and awareness becomes more than a concept. It becomes a path that determines outcomes. Awareness, unlike fear, is steady. It does not rush or overwhelm. It observes, understands, and responds with clarity. Where fear sees chaos, awareness sees patterns. Where fear freezes or panics, awareness prepares. It is the quiet strength that allows a person to stand firm even when uncertainty grows around them. This kind of calm is not accidental. It is cultivated by choosing to focus on what can be done rather than what cannot be controlled. When warnings begin to spread and the signs of a severe storm become clear, fear may whisper thoughts of worst-case scenarios. It may push people toward denial or overreaction. Some may ignore the situation entirely, hoping it will pass without consequence. Others may act impulsively, making decisions that lack planning or foresight. Both responses come from the same place, a mind unsettled by fear. Awareness offers a different path. It begins with accepting the situation as it is, without exaggeration and without dismissal. It asks simple, practical questions. What do I need to stay safe? What steps can I take now that will make a difference later? It encourages small, meaningful actions, checking supplies, securing shelter, staying informed. These actions may seem ordinary, but they are rooted in clear thinking, and clear thinking is powerful in times of uncertainty. There is a quiet confidence that grows from awareness. It does not eliminate risk, but it reduces vulnerability. It does not promise perfect control, but it increases readiness. A person who acts with awareness is not free from concern, but they are not controlled by it either. They move with intention, guided by understanding rather than driven by panic. In this way, awareness transforms the experience of facing a storm. Instead of being an overwhelming threat, it becomes a challenge that can be met with preparation and presence. The storm may still arrive with its full force, but the response to it will be grounded and effective. The choice between fear and awareness is often made in small moments. What we focus on, how we interpret information, and how we respond to it. By choosing awareness, we create space for better decisions, stronger actions, and a steadier mind. And in the face of something as powerful as a record-breaking winter storm, that steadiness can make all the difference. Preparation is essential. Simple early actions like planning and securing resources can prevent major harm later. Preparation often appears simple on the surface, yet its value reveals itself only when it is needed most. In quiet moments, before any storm has touched the ground, the idea of preparing can feel unnecessary or easily postponed. The sky may still seem calm, the air unchanged, and daily routines continue without interruption. But it is precisely in these calm moments that preparation holds its greatest power. What is done early, with clarity and intention, becomes a shield when conditions begin to change. There is a tendency to underestimate small actions. Gathering essential supplies, checking the safety of a home, making a plan. These steps may seem ordinary, almost insignificant. Yet, when a powerful winter storm approaches, these small efforts combine to create stability. A secured window prevents damage. A stocked resource prevents scarcity. A clear plan prevents confusion. Each action, though simple on its own, becomes part of a larger structure of readiness. Preparation is not about expecting the worst in a fearful way. It is about respecting possibility in a thoughtful way. It acknowledges that while we cannot control the storm, we can influence how it affects us. This understanding shifts the mindset from helplessness to responsibility. Instead of waiting to see what will happen, we take steps to shape our response ahead of time. Delaying preparation often comes at a cost. When action is postponed until the last moment, choices become limited. Supplies may no longer be available, time may become too short, and decisions may need to be made under pressure. In such situations, even simple tasks can feel overwhelming. What could have been done calmly becomes rushed, and what could have been effective becomes incomplete. Early preparation, on the other hand, creates space. It allows for thoughtful decisions and careful adjustments. It reduces the need for urgency and replaces it with confidence. A person who is prepared does not need to scramble when the storm arrives. They can focus on staying safe rather than solving problems that could have been prevented. There is also a deeper sense of control that comes from being prepared. Not control over nature itself, but control over one's readiness to face it. This sense of readiness brings calm, even when conditions become severe. It allows the mind to remain steady, which is often just as important as physical safety. Preparation is, in many ways, an act of respect. Respect for the power of the storm and respect for one's own well-being. It recognizes that nature operates on its own terms, and that ignoring this reality does not lessen its impact. By preparing, we align ourselves with this truth rather than resisting it. When the storm finally arrives, it does not measure intentions, it reveals outcomes. And those outcomes are often shaped long before the first wind begins to blow. In this way, preparation is not just a task, it is a decision made in advance, a quiet commitment to safety, stability, and wise action when it matters most. Nature's power demands respect. Extreme weather is a reminder of how strong and unpredictable nature can be. Nature does not speak in words, yet its messages are never truly hidden. They are written in shifting winds, in falling temperatures, in the quiet transformation of the sky. Most of the time, these changes are gentle, almost unnoticeable, blending into the rhythm of everyday life. But there are moments when those same patterns intensify, when balance gives way to extremes, and the familiar becomes powerful enough to demand our full attention. A record-breaking winter storm is one such moment, a reminder that nature's strength is far greater than our routines and expectations. It is easy in times of comfort to forget this truth. We build homes, create systems, and surround ourselves with a sense of control. These structures give us security, and rightly so, but they can also create the illusion that we are unaffected by the larger forces around us. When the weather is calm, when seasons follow predictable paths, it becomes natural to assume that this stability will continue. Yet nature does not promise consistency. It follows its own laws, its own cycles, its own balance. When a powerful storm approaches, that illusion begins to fade. The cold deepens beyond what feels ordinary. The wind carries a sharper edge. The forecasts grow more certain, more urgent. In these moments, nature is not acting against us. It is simply revealing its full capacity. The storm is not personal, nor is it intentional in the way human actions are. It is the result of forces interacting on a scale far beyond individual control. To respect nature's power is not to fear it blindly, but to understand it honestly. It means recognizing that strength does not always appear as destruction. Sometimes it appears as unpredictability, as intensity, as conditions that exceed what we are used to handling. Respect is shown not through words, but through action, through preparation, awareness, and a willingness to adapt. There is also a lesson in humility within such events. No matter how advanced or capable we believe ourselves to be, moments like these remind us that we are still part of a much larger system. We are not separate from nature, we exist within it. And when its forces grow strong, they set the terms, not us. This realization is not meant to diminish human ability, but to place it in the right perspective. At the same time, respect for nature leads to wiser decisions. It encourages us to listen more carefully, to take warnings seriously, and to act before conditions become severe. It shifts the mindset from resistance to cooperation, working with reality rather than denying it. In doing so, it reduces unnecessary risk and strengthens our ability to endure difficult situations. A storm of this magnitude is not just an event to observe, it is an experience that reveals truths. It shows where we are prepared and where we are not. It highlights the importance of foresight, patience, and adaptability. And above all, it reminds us that nature's power is constant, even when it is not always visible. To ignore that power is to misunderstand the world we live in, but to respect it is to move through that world with greater awareness, making choices that align not with assumption, but with reality. Timely action matters. Acting before the storm arrives is the key difference between safety and regret. Time is often the quiet factor that determines the outcome of every challenge, yet it is the one thing most easily overlooked. When warnings appear and signals begin to align, there is usually a window, sometimes wide, sometimes narrow, where action can still be taken with ease. This window does not remain open indefinitely. It moves, it shrinks, and eventually it closes. In the case of a powerful winter storm, that window is the space between awareness and impact, and what is done within it shapes everything that follows. There is a natural tendency to believe that there is always more time. The mind seeks comfort in delay, suggesting that action can be taken later, that preparation can wait another hour or another day. But storms do not follow our sense of timing. They build according to their own momentum, gathering strength in ways that are often invisible until it is too late to respond calmly. By the time their presence is fully felt, the opportunity for easy preparation has already passed. Timely action is not about rushing blindly, it is about moving with awareness before urgency takes control. When steps are taken early, they are guided by clarity rather than pressure. Decisions are more thoughtful, resources are more accessible, and the process itself remains steady. There is no need for panic when preparation has already begun. Each action fits into place with purpose, creating a sense of readiness that cannot be achieved at the last moment. Delaying action changes this completely. As time slips away, the same tasks become more difficult, supplies may become scarce, conditions may begin to worsen, and the mind may become clouded by the weight of urgency. What could have been done with ease now requires effort and speed. In such moments, mistakes are more likely, and the sense of control begins to fade. The difference is not in the difficulty of the storm, but in the timing of the response. There is also a quiet discipline in acting early. It requires trust in the information available and a willingness to move before the need feels immediate. This discipline is not always easy because it goes against the comfort of waiting. Yet it is this very willingness that creates an advantage. Acting at the right time is not about reacting to fear. It is about respecting reality before it demands attention. A prepared mind understands that the moment to act is not when the storm arrives, but when its arrival becomes clear. That understanding transforms time from a passive element into an active tool. Instead of being caught within the storm's timeline, one begins to move ahead of it, shaping outcomes rather than simply experiencing them. In the end, the storm will come as it is meant to come, with its full force and presence. But the experience of facing it will differ greatly depending on when action was taken. Those who wait may find themselves overwhelmed not because the storm was unstoppable, but because the opportunity to prepare was missed. Those who act early, however, meet the same storm with steadiness, having already done what was within their control. Time does not slow down for hesitation, but it rewards those who understand its value. And in moments like these, That understanding can make all the difference between struggle and stability.